everyone? We have a legend in the house today. I've known Alex for a hot minute. In and out, our circles have kind of intertwined. We've done projects together. We are similar in so many ways, and we are wildly different in so many as well. And like that's but I'll tell you what, over the years I've known Alex, I've admired everything he's ever done. And even just watching him evolve as a human, I've admired him watching his old projects, his old ways of expressing, his old ways of living, which is to say, he was his true self then. To watch him evolve and be who he is now, even deeper expressions of his true self, seeing people be their true self is the most important thing we could do. And Alex, for as long as I've known him, has always pursued that, which is why he was on the top of the list to be one of my first guests on the podcast. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Man, that's it's a intro, brother.
Hey, I,
Yo,
I
it's good to
really mean
be
it.
here, man.
Really
Thank you,
mean it.
bro. Thank you. Thank you.
Where do we find you today?
Man, I'm at the crib. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, it's I got a little time off work today, so yeah, this is honestly the best way to be able to spend it. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, bro. Columbus. Columbus is home. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I moved here. When was that? I think 7 years ago. So yeah, you and I we linked up in Colorado, which was a little bit of a detour for me
Yep.
after college. And yeah, Columbus has been home for past 7 years now, and
Yep.
it's been a good ride so far.
Would you say, like, if I was to say where is like home, like where's the roots? What place, if there was a place that formed you, Columbus is where you live now. What place or what town, what community would you say was like the place that formed Alex?
Hmm. I think that it's such a it's a more challenging question to answer than maybe it would be for some other folks. I've kind of moved around a good bit, um, but usually when people ask where I'm from, I'll say North Carolina, from Charlotte. That's where I moved after my sixth grade year of middle school, and then I was in North Carolina throughout the end of middle school through high school, and then also did went to college in North Carolina. So for
Got
me, that's where I think obviously everywhere I've been has shaped me in some way,
of course.
shape, or form. But North Carolina was definitely where I was at for what I would consider to probably be the most formative years of my life.
Okay, so then where on that journey does the Buckeyes love come from? Where does that get introduced into the story?
Yeah, so my wife Elizabeth, she's from Columbus. Her family pretty much all went to Ohio State, are fans of Ohio State. Her dad, he used to do the football programs for the university, and
Interesting.
so at one point he was, I think, the uh, top season ticket holder at the university through that work that he was doing with the programs. And so, yeah, I learned pretty early on when her and I started dating, which was her freshman year in college, my sophomore year. We both went to Elon University together.
Yep.
She was like, yo, pretty much first rule of thumb is you got to support the Buckeyes.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, I jumped on ship. I like resisted it for a little while, but one of the first lessons that her mom taught me was the difference between Buckeye the nut and then Buckeye the candy, which is like a peanut butter ball covered in chocolate
Okay.
that looks like the nut. And so really early on, I was getting that Buckeyes 101.
I had no idea. I had no idea there's even a difference. Not trying to know what either of the Buckeyes even are, even still. But I guess I got more research to do. Yeah, that's awesome, bro. So like, okay, we're gonna talk about all your creative work, all the projects you've done, all the good shit you do. But before we talk about what we do, because we're obviously so much more than what we do, Alex Lewis has a couple $100, 2 or 3 free days, nothing on the calendar. What's he do? Like let's speak into like what is Alex about outside of what he does, outside of what other people say about him, outside of what he's projecting to be. He's got some time, he's got some money. The world is his to enjoy. What's Alex up to in that space?
Man, so for me, one, like the first place my mind went was food.
Yep.
Uh, I love food. My grandma growing up, she would always like anytime we were going to eat or doing something around food, she would call it a party. And
Huh.
that's something that I've really carried with me is, I love just the experience of being able to eat good food, being able to enjoy good food with other people. And so for me, like whenever I get, when I take time off
Yep.
for my birthday or even just in the day to day, my mind kind of thinks from like meal to meal,
Love it.
instead of like, different meetings or whatever that I have during
Yep.
the day. So, yeah, for me, like definitely if I've got some time, I'm thinking about, all right, cool. I'm gonna go to Pistachio Vera for coffee, which
Mm.
that's my like favorite spot in Columbus to be able to get a cup of coffee or get a matcha. Uh, I'm thinking about lunch. I could either go Ray Ray's, which is like a barbecue spot here in
Okay.
Columbus,
Yep.
or I could make the move over to Wario's, which is a sandwich spot where like the sandwiches are like bigger than your head.
Love it.
Uh, and I know at that point, like I'm gonna be kind of down for the count, at least for like a few hours after
Love it.
that. So for me, I'm usually like I'm pretty like it's funny when I get some alone time, it's typically just like watching YouTube
Yep.
and going through, my favorite artists' interviews or
Mm.
just watching like a Emma Chamberlain vlog or
Yes.
or it's just putting on some music, putting on a record and being able to spin that. Um and then like for me too, I love a sporting event. I'm a
Yep.
big basketball fan, and so if I have the ability and sporting events going on, a game's going on, would love to be able to hit one every year.
Yep.
Uh, Whenever Denver Nuggets, it's my favorite team. Whenever they make their way over to Cleveland, my friends and I, we always try to make the trip and
Love it.
be in the arena for that. So yeah, those are kind of like at least from the starting spot. Those are the things that my mind and heart goes for.
Since we're there, could you tell a story about when the Nuggets were in the finals last year and you got to go?
Yeah,
Just to
yeah.
tell a good story as we get going, like to see your joy on that Instagram when your friends hooked you up. Just one of the best stories ever. Yeah, could you tell that story real quick? Just talk about how people bless
Yeah.
each other and just I loved that story.
Oh man. So yeah, my homie Garrick, shout out to Garrick. I actually got linked up with him while I was living in Colorado. And it's funny because like he's just one of the like coolest stories and just I think like one of the things that defines Garrick as a person is there was this time when I was living out in Colorado. It was like one evening, I was just kind of hanging out doing my thing, and he's like, "Yo, we're in California." And my homie, like, he wants you to come, like, he wants you to be a part of like his bachelor party situation. Like, if I bought your ticket to come to California, like, would you want to go to Disneyland with us tomorrow? And I was like, yo, all right. Like it's
Yep.
not it's the flights from Colorado to LA aren't horrible. So yeah, on a whim, like I bought a plane ticket and literally that next morning I was on my way to go to Disneyland with him and his crew. And it was just like such a special thing, like one of those things that I could have never,
Yep.
guessed would get to happen. But that's just Garrick's passion
Yep.
for life. And so over the years, him and I have traded some love and some trash talk about basketball. He's
Yep.
a Phoenix Suns fan, obviously for me, the Nuggets. And so, we kind of get those moments just to like witness each other's love for our respective teams. And the playoffs happened in 2023, and Nuggets they beat the Suns, and then they go on this run
Yep.
into the NBA Finals versus the Miami Heat.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, I've been a Nuggets fan for 20 years, like since Carmelo Anthony got drafted. And so I'm
Yep.
sitting here and I'm like, man, I can't believe like this is actually happening. And of course, like I'm like, let me see what tickets are looking like. And at this point, my wife and I, we were actually getting ready to move into a house. And so we're like kind of starting to get like boxes together, trying to figure out like moving arrangements, all this kind of stuff. And I end up uh, I get this text from Garrick, and he's like, actually, it's like a FaceTime,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Yo," he gets on the phone. He's like, "Yo, you trying to go to the NBA Finals?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to go to the NBA Finals. What do you mean?" And literally, next thing I know, I look down at my phone, and there's a Venmo notification, and he ended up without me knowing, kind of going on his Instagram stories and whatnot, and letting people know about my love for the Nuggets and how he wanted to help me go to the finals. And he ended up kind of pooling money from all these different areas, working with my wife to make this happen.
Yep.
And yeah, got an opportunity to use that money toward my ticket, and then bought a flight out to Miami and got to see Game 4
So good.
in Miami, which Nuggets won. And then that next game, Game 5, was when they won the championship. So yeah, unreal, like surreal
Yep.
experience to be able to be there in person, to be kind of the lone Nuggets fan in a sea of Miami Heat fans. And
So
then
good.
at the end of that game, all the Nuggets fans, I had kind of trickled out by this point, but a lot of Nuggets fans stayed in and just started chanting and kind of filling the arena with "Let's go Nuggets." And that's just one of my favorite like videos to go back and look
Mm.
at, just seeing like, I don't know, that love, that excitement, it really was like years in the making for
Yes.
the Nuggets. So incredible to be able to be
Yep.
there, and so cool to have a friend show up for me in that way.
So good. Yeah, man. I tell you, like, just to like we may never be wealthy in money, but to have friends like that is worth all the wealth in the world, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just, man, how wealthy are you, to have a friend that would
Mm,
put in the work to raise the money and send you. Oh, that kind of love is just worth everything. Um, like when I was thinking about you, Alex, when I was like preparing for this, the word like meaning maker came to me,
mm.
so often that you're so good at making meaning out of things. And we'll probably come back to that throughout this, but it's like, in all of your essays, which I'm going to resist trying to just analyze every essay you've written. We will talk about the essays, but it's like, you don't just like, you make meaning out of your regular life. You make meaning out of the nuggets, you make meaning out of the music. Like your content is so just you find so much gold in just the regular stuff you do, which isn't very regular at all. It's divine, it's beautiful, it's amazing. Um, so talk about like, okay, you're a fan of the Nuggets. Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson had a nice little stint there. I think of Earl Boykins. He was my favorite player from that era.
Yeah,
I had an Earl
yeah.
Boykins jersey when
Yeah,
I
that's
was
fire.
um, when I was in high school. Um, but like, why does that matter? Like, help me find the meaning. Let's say there's just some like kid that doesn't understand sports, that doesn't understand. Oh, it's just a bunch of bros, drinking beer and watching the game. What else is there to like the Nuggets, and why would your friend go to all that effort to send you there? Like, what's the nugget in that? Like, help me make meaning
Yeah.
out of like gathering around sports, watching something like this. Where's the depth there for you, and what makes things like Ohio State football or the Denver Nuggets so meaningful and so special?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like interconnectedness comes to mind. Um, this idea that, we are all connected and there's this craving within each of us to want to be in community
Yes,
with each other. And that can happen in a multitude of ways, sometimes for good, sometimes for,
yes,
like more like not good
yep, yep,
reasons. But it's this thing that at least from what I've read, what I've observed, what I see in myself, it feels pretty innate. And it's also, I think, like when we think about the culture that we're in now and society that we're in now, where so much of so many of the instructions we've been handed, so much of the different things that we're being kind of pointed in the direction of is primarily in this direction of isolation. It's pulling us away from each
yes,
other. It is in this direction of cruelty and even in terms of how we interact with each other on social media, you could have somebody who from a general place of curiosity is like, hey, I don't know about this thing, or this is something that, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me.
yes,
And instead of us being like, well, hey, like let's walk through that together, let's talk through that together. Oftentimes the initial response is, how could you not know that? Like,
mm,
how are you surprised by this?
yes,
There's this like just that cruelty comes so much more naturally because we're taught and we're kind of pointed in the direction of not seeing one another
yes,
as human,
hmm,
not seeing one another as people with complex emotions, thoughts, who are working through their own journeys, who are processing things at different rates and in different spaces. And
yes,
so, for me to bring it back to sports, like sports is just one of those spaces where we have an opportunity to be able to come together
mm,
around a certain thing
yep,
in celebration of a certain thing,
yes,
maybe sometimes in jest of a certain thing.
yeah, sure,
So much of like my love for NBA and the conversations that I have with friends around basketball, sometimes it's just like clowning,
yes,
whether it be a certain player or a certain play or, a decision that a team made. And that too, I think is holy. I think that reeks of love.
mm, hmm,
And that for me is like when I think about even just my love for the Nuggets and how that passion has grown over time, like really it's connected to family, it's connected to my grandma whose basement
mm,
I would sit in and her and I would watch basketball together. I remember those early moments of watching Allen Iverson go up against the Lakers and being like, man, like this dude is just cool.
yes,
Like, yeah, he could play, but like he just oozed of this coolness, this
yes,
like you wanted to be him. And so many players, so many other people kind of felt that too.
mm,
And for me, it was also like you see a player like that, and then there's this lineage where then you see a player like Carmelo Anthony,
yes,
who he also has the braids, he also has the tattoos, he's wearing the headband.
hmm,
It's like, oh man, what he's doing and who he is, like that's connected to Allen Iverson. And I can
hmm,
quickly pinpoint that and be like, man, that's so special that
yes,
now like I have my own version of
yes,
AI. And then
mm,
also it's like, okay, cool. I love like even for me, like my love for the Nuggets, it seems silly, but it was the colors at the time.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they switched their team colors, they switched their jersey colors to this powder blue
Yep.
and yellow. And I was like, man, that is so like that's just such a sweet combo. And that was like that added to that cool factor where it was
Totally.
like, oh man, like this is a team that I want to root for,
Yep.
because they just like they feel like something you want to be a part
Yep.
of. And so
Mm.
to be able to then grow up and kind of, actually move out to Colorado, get the chance to go to some games, like get to see some really cool moments, get to
Yep.
see some of those early years of Nikola Jokic, like becoming who he is. Like that was just
Totally.
that's just really special, man. It's like it feels like, yes, like I've gotten to kind of see this journey, but I've also gotten to share in this journey with, other people who I know or may never know. And like that
Yes.
feels like,
Mm.
I don't know, it feels like there's a connection there
Yep.
that is worth continuing to
Mm.
nurture and see
Yeah.
through.
There's an innate longing to connect, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And sports provides that foundation that allows you to connect to something bigger than you. Like it's almost like
Yeah.
sometimes the way I often think of it, um, is that whether or not you're spiritual or not, there's an inherent longing to be part of something bigger than us, or
Yeah.
even more specifically, sometimes to be part of something that we can't control. Like,
Mm.
and like, so whether that's God or whether that's a sports team, no matter how much we want it, the teams we love, we can't control it. And I think there's a human piece to that where it's like, a lot of our suffering comes from trying to control things we can't control. And I think we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think sports so often offers that.
Yeah.
It's funny you're
Yeah.
saying that, dude. I was able to, my brother and I, we love a Premier League team called Tottenham Hotspur. We love them with our whole heart. And the reason we fell in love with him is a long time ago when he was in rehab. He had like big programming he had to do. So he had to do like all this stuff every day. But because Premier League's in London, it's at like um the soccer games are at like 5 in the morning. So we would get up. He was in rehab in Minnesota. I would get up with him because a couple of the guys in his rehab center would watch Premier League soccer. And I was like, I'm just trying to love on my bro, like he's going through it. So I would get up and we started following them. And it was so funny because the first year they made a championship game and it was like, oh, this is very easy to love them. And then they just tanked for the next like 10 years. And it's been miserable being a Tottenham fan. But actually, 2 weeks ago, they won their first trophy in 17 years. And it's like we're on the internet, but there's like grown men crying, and I'm like crying with them on the internet. And it's like, I love you, man. And I've never even met you. And so you talk about that connection this week for Tottenham Hotspur. We felt that. Um, okay, so here's something I'm really intrigued by because you are a lover. You are so curious and you are so kind. Um, you talked about like the way sports tries to find this unity and things. I mean, in the same way though, right? Like it can create that dualism and that isolation just as radically. Something I think is interesting about you is some of the players you tend to love that you tend to write about are kind of controversial. The Kevin Durant's of the world, the Russell Westbrooks of the world, the ones that like people have a lot of feelings about. I feel like for you, let's take Kevin Durant for example, is wildly polarizing. He's on a million teams. He's kind of saucy sometimes, like, but you tend to find the humanity in him. In how you talk about him, I feel like, or people like Russell Westbrook, people like even AI, who like when I was a kid, I mean, people like the white conservative pastors in my world would have said he's such a bad influence or whatever, even though I was also like, he's so cool. Okay, take somebody like these people or the way sports can divide. You, with laser pinpoint precision, find the beauty or find the humanity in people that are sometimes divisive. Where does that come from? How do you do that? If somebody's listening to this that's like always got an opinion, is always angry about what other people are doing, how do you find the humanity in people like that? And you find, no, man, like Kevin Durant's a freaking human being and he's got huge emotions. In fact, he cares more about basketball than probably anybody else. Like, how do you find that when everybody else is just like, what a chump?
I think, and I'm I'm not sure how much of it is this, but I feel like growing up, honestly, some of it was rebellion. Like some
Mm,
of it was being able to see a player like Allen Iverson and know like, okay, like my parents are
yep,
working in corporate jobs and like they are very like got the suit on,
yep,
got the dress suit on, got the heels, the tights, all that kind of stuff. And Allen Iverson represented something that
mm,
was different. He
yep,
represented something that felt like a little bit contrary to the system.
yes.
And that to me was intriguing.
Hmm.
That to me is also why when I heard Eminem for the first time,
Hmm.
it was like, oh man, like these, like lyrically, this feels wildly different than
Yes.
the slow jams that I hear my mom play
Hmm.
in the car. This feels wildly different than, some of the other music that I I've heard that I've been exposed to. And those things, they led me into this deeper curiosity and love
Mm,
for, say, basketball or say hip hop, where it was like those were kind of the openings for me.
yes.
And then I have this sense in me where it's like when I love something, when I become interested in something, like I want to know everything about
Yep.
it.
Totally.
Like
Yep.
say like TV show, for example, like we just finished watching all the seasons of Righteous Gemstones.
Okay.
And immediately after the series, I'm like, yo, I gotta get on Twitter and like see like just search Righteous Gemstones and see how people have been like talking about the
Sure.
show and like what types of things that like they're
Yep.
saying and they're getting connected to in it. And that's just the way that like growing up, like those that's what really like I would grab, like I'd go to like Scholastic book fairs or whatever and find like all these different basketball books, and then I would learn like
Love it.
all the players names, where
Mhm.
they went to college, what their stats were. And that was just this like I don't know, like I just loved
Yep.
being able to dive into that. And so for me now, like I think about a player like J.R. Smith, for example,
Yes.
where
Totally.
like I remember early on when he was on the Nuggets
Yep.
and like the way that he played, you're seeing like these high flying dunks and different things that he's doing. But he's also this player who's like, in so many of the Nuggets at that time, like I think about like a Chris Anderson,
Yep.
they're like covered in tattoos. They don't look like you're like
Yep.
typical basketball player. You probably would be kind of like a little bit cautious if you saw them on the street,
Totally.
but like they just brought this like fun, interesting energy to
Yep.
a league that sometimes can opt for safety.
Yep. Yep.
But the way that they were quote unquote unsafe, like
Hmm.
that felt
Mm.
cool. That felt like
Yep.
something worth being able to kind of like latch onto and want to know more about. And
Yep.
so for me, so much of it is connected to uh this curiosity and what's
Yep.
kind of behind the
Yep.
thing when something doesn't necessarily match,
Yep.
everything else that's going on around it.
It sounds like to me like you're somebody that I want to be like. Like I would want my kids to be like you, finding the thing beneath the thing, looking and
Mm,
being curious. And it sounds like part of what makes Alex, somebody who I admire, Alex, is that radical curiosity. That in
mm,
many ways, curiosity is entirely the name of the game. It's what's allowed you to love the way you love, create the way you create, cultivate beauty and community the way you do. Like community or curiosity seems to be the secret sauce in a lot of
mm.
ways for you. How does that land if
It's
I put that on the table?
Yeah, it's it's interesting. I appreciate it. It's something that I don't know if uh like maybe before this or
Mhm.
uh even as I think about like myself as a in college or whatever, I wouldn't have necessarily thought about myself as curious.
Sure.
And I think like some of that was, because I thought about curiosity primarily in the sense of academics,
Mm.
where for me in school, like I did well. Uh, I did well enough to be able to get by, but I didn't really like loved being assigned things. Like if you assigned me a book to read in class or something like that, like I'm waiting until the last possible moment to get into that thing. Like
Oh,
in
yes.
especially in college, like there were times where teachers would have to be like, because I'd start drifting off,
Yep.
and they're like, "Yo, like, do you need to get up and like take a walk or go get a drink of water?" And it's there were certain things that started to pique my interest at that time, but so much of it happened outside of the realm
Yep.
of the classroom to where
Yep.
now I'm in a space where like I've been out of school for a while. Like
Yep.
I get to actually kind of create my own like learning agenda and like lesson
Totally.
plan, if you will. And it takes me back to those times as a
Yep.
kid when I was literally just following wherever my mind and my heart went. If it was
Yep.
like, yo, I want to learn about all these NBA players, like,
Yep.
cool.
Mm.
What do I need to do that? If I want to learn about these skaters that are in Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like,
Yes.
cool. Let me go check that out. If I
Yep.
want to go get into Pokemon cards
Yep.
or figure out all these different Digimon or whatever it may be,
Yep.
like I could do that. And I've kind of made some of that space
Yep.
for myself now where
Mm.
I can
Yes.
dive in. I'm not being assigned a an essay to
Yes.
write for my newsletter. I'm not having
Mhm.
to hit a certain,
Yes.
a certain cadence or
Yep.
whatever it may be. I really just get to see where that curiosity takes me, and so it's something that feels more true for me now
Yep.
than maybe it did when I was more
Yep.
heavily in school.
But it sounds like, I mean, if I was to just offer one observation, the curiosity was still there. It just wasn't encouraged by the system. Like
Yeah.
that spirit was in you. It
Yep.
just was in conflict with the way the system was built around you. If my wife ends up listening to this episode, she's gonna say Tyler and Alex are the same friggin' person. It's like you talk about just like learning just infinite amounts of information about the most whatever show or whatever piece of clothing or oh my gosh. I love hearing that. Like it just makes me come alive. Um, you mentioned essays. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Alex is a prolific essay writer. His Substack is popping. I mean, we're talking, it's getting shared by celebrities. It's making people cry. It's the best. It's absolutely the best.
Thanks, man.
Um, Tell us about it. How to get started? Where's it come from? What's it about?
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a window into your world there on Substack.
Yeah. So a Substack newsletter, it's called Feels Like Home. And I started it at the end of 2022. I had been writing on Medium for a while. Um, and I've kind of written throughout my life.
Yep.
And that has expressed itself in different ways. But I would say like around 2020, 2021, I was starting to come across more writers. And even prior to that, like I remember my boss at one of my old jobs, he had this like stack of Hanif Abdurraqib books, and it was
Yes.
Hanif's book, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us.
Yep.
And I had
Yep.
seen
Yep.
the cover before. I knew about Hanif. I'd heard him on different podcasts, knew he was from Columbus. And
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah. So
cool.
he lives here, and yeah, he's become like a really yeah, just indirect kind
Yep.
of just good homie mentor. Um
Mm.
and
Have you met him?
I
Like in real
yeah,
life?
yeah, it's actually crazy when I first was moving out to Columbus because outside of my wife, Hanif was the only person that I knew who had ties to
Wow.
Columbus. I was at this point in at least like the age of social media where you could find somebody on Facebook or whatever,
Yep.
send them a quick message, and
Yep.
like maybe they'll respond. And so I found Hanif on Facebook and I shot him a message because I was like, yo, I'm moving to this new city. I'm gonna need to get a haircut, but I don't
Yep.
just want anyone touching my hair.
Yep.
Like,
Love it.
do you have like a barber recommendation? And he ended up responding. He was like, yo, go
Mm.
to this spot. And literally the first day that I'm at the shop, as I'm getting ready to leave, Hanif walks in
Mm.
and just like went over, introduced myself, was like, yo, like you actually told me about this spot. Like, thanks for setting me up. And since then, my homie Koku and I, we got to have him on our podcast when we were
Wow.
doing that. And then since then, as well as I've kind of gotten more and more into my writing journey,
Yep.
had opportunities to be able to connect with him in person and kind of chat through just the ins and outs of like
Wow.
what it looks like to step into this world. So he's somebody that for me, I see myself as part of his writing lineage. I see him as sort of a model for
Mm.
how to be in a city, how to remain in a city as an artist and actually, be a part of that city to be able to invest and uh, contribute to uh, contribute to the heart of that city, not just for the sake of fame or for the sake of being able to get some kind of accolade, but more so because he's from here. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was he was shaped by
Yep.
this place, and so he has he's traveled, he's gone to different places, lived in different places, but he came back here for a reason,
Yep.
and he's more interested in what it looks like to be able to support the people in this community and to
Yep.
be a part of this community
Wow.
than say, trying to get a pat on the back by like
Wow.
city government or whatever it may be. So
Yep.
for
Mm.
me, like, yeah, reading when my boss gave me that copy of They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us for the first time, I was kind of sifting through that book. And I mean, this will make sense as I'm explaining it, but like, I remember seeing him write about Carly Rae Jepsen. And I'm
Mm.
like, yo, what's this black dude talking about
Mm.
this like white
Mm-hmm.
pop star for? Like, this is
Yep.
this is crazy. Like, I I enjoy that music.
Yes.
And then he's writing about, he goes from there and then he's writing about Schoolboy Q.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
Yes.
he's writing about Allen Iverson crossing
Yes.
up Michael Jordan. And I'm
Yep.
like, man, like
Wow.
if I were to ever like
Mm.
write in this way, like this is how I would want to do it. Because so
Yep.
much of the writing that I had been doing at that point was primarily in this vein of like, hey, I see this thing in culture that uh isn't the way that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be different. And it was primarily in this vein of educating, but not even like educating, like people that look like me. Like it felt more like it was like education for white people on
Yep.
racism and other
Sure.
things. And like, sure, like that's somebody's lane. It was my lane for a little bit,
Yep.
but it wasn't necessarily something that always felt incredibly fulfilling. And
Mm.
what I saw in Hanif is someone who kind of shut all that off and sort of in the vein of Toni Morrison, where Toni Morrison
Yes.
is like,
Mm,
racism is a distraction. Like,
mm.
worrying about what white people want you to do as a black writer, like that's a distraction.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
keep it inward, like
Yep.
write to you, write to your people. And that's what I saw in Hanif's
Hmm.
work, was like he is very unapologetic about the things that he loves, and
Wow.
was finding a way to write about that and unpack that. And also not be blind to the world around him, not to be blind
Yes.
to the ills of the world, but
Yes.
to be able to engage with those in a way that actually was not just reactionary, but was actually
Mm.
like, being able to connect that to himself, being able to connect that to the actual people in his real life who he interacts with on a daily basis. And so that like unlocked something in me. And it wasn't even necessarily something that like I started jumping directly into essay writing from that. Sometimes it was just like, oh, I'm writing like a caption for an Instagram post.
Mm.
And oh, there's this thing that happened here that I want to connect to this thing over here. And I'm going to just write a long ass Instagram caption
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to get into that. And then I started like, I started meeting just online during the pandemic and whatnot, coming across other writers that I admired, and just organically becoming friends with them. And one in particular, Nicholas Terrell Scott. He's a
Mm.
writer out of the UK. He's a music and culture writer. Incredible work. Definitely, if you haven't checked out his stuff, give it a read. But him and I were talking, and we would text back and forth, send voice notes, all that. And he was like, "Yo, like you should you should write. You should like
Mm.
do something more long form
Yeah.
with this." And I was like, I mean, all right, this is coming from him. Like this is a writer
Mhm.
that like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
look to, and like I look at his
Wow.
long form stuff and I'm like, yo, this is dope. And he was like, yo, you should do this. And that really gave me kind of this like green light to
Yep.
start to explore that world. So I began writing a few different cultural pieces on Medium. I did a piece on like celebrity culture, did a piece on I actually went back into my old thesis from college on how
Mm.
mega churches use how they
I remember that.
communicate online, and like
Hmm.
actually like revisited that from where I am now, and
Wow.
like got to unpack some of those different things. And I started to get into it, but wasn't really like, it may be like months that passed like between pieces. And then I actually started seeing my few friends of mine, JT and Koku. They had written some pieces on Medium, just talking about the music that they loved, and it like sparked that thing in me again, where I was like, "Yo, like I want to get in on this. Like I want to." It's like you're sitting on the sideline while like dudes
Yep.
are playing pickup basketball, or like if you're at the playground and you're watching kids kind of play around, and you're like,
Yes.
yo, like I want to get in on that fun. Like that was me. And so
Curiosity again.
I yeah, so I was like, yo, I'm gonna jump into this.
Yes.
And I wrote a piece on at that point it was the Good Music BET Hip Hop Awards cipher, that like it
Hmm.
was like Kanye before all the
Yep.
craziness. Like it
Yep.
was like Pusha T, Common, Big Sean.
Hmm.
Like I just kind of wrote about that moment as this
Hmm.
like really cool thing for me in hip hop. And then from there, like it just like I couldn't stop. Like it was like,
Wow.
it started becoming like 1 to 2 essays a month. And over the course of that year, like I just stayed consistent with it. And what I ultimately started to realize is like, okay, uh, this is great. Like I love the ability to be able to express, but I also want people to be able to read my work.
Mm.
and for it to be more accessible for them. And Medium was cool in the sense of being able to publish, but it didn't necessarily like any sort of promotion that I was going to do for my work. It had to happen on social media, which I think we all can attest to how fickle those algorithms can be. And I would have homies that were like, yo, I totally missed this piece. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to read it, but I didn't see that you had like posted about it. And I was like, man, like, okay, there's got to be something else here. And I had resisted like the newsletter thing for a while just because it felt like everybody was doing one, everybody had one. And I was
Yep.
like, I don't need to add to the noise. But what a newsletter represented for me and what it came to represent for me was a way to be able to make my work more accessible for the people who wanted to read it. And so on a whim one day, I went and was just like, yo, I'm going to do this. I like spent the day kind of getting everything set up, came up with this name, Feels Like Home, which was really like connected to one, it was like I'd started to dive into older pieces that I'd written and just kept seeing this theme come
Wow.
up where I was talking about, this sense of feeling like home, this state of being at home, this familiarity that word kind of represents for me. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go with that as the title. In terms of like how I was gonna approach the writing, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing. Like I'm
Yep.
gonna write about things that I love
Yep.
and the people and moments that have shaped me. And that ultimately kicked off me starting that newsletter. And it's now been, gosh, I think coming up on, 3.5 years
Damn.
of just being on there and just kind of chipping away at it, having
Yep.
fun with it, seeing it as like as like a playground instead of
Yes.
a prison and not
Mm.
putting like this like pressure on it.
Yep.
And it really has been like this space that, it's kind of this like self-fulfilling prophecy where like it has really like this whole experience has felt like home. And the people that I've met through it have been people that feel really familiar
Mm.
to
Mm.
my heart and my mind
Yep.
because we've been able to bond around
Mm.
these things that we love, even if on the surface it isn't something that you connect with.
Yep. Yep. So almost by way of just sharing with complete authenticity, you've created a home and a place of belonging through your creation and your cultivation of putting this work out into the world. It's created an ecosystem, a new place of belonging for you as you've created and put stuff out.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like, yeah, it's this thing where, and it's funny because like, I often joke like if you go on the back end
Mm-hmm.
of your Substack account, you have the option to pick 1 to 2 categories
Sure.
for your newsletter. And for me, I think right now I have on there like culture and music,
Mm-hmm.
which if you're coming to my newsletter simply for culture and or music, you're likely going to be surprised when you also see me talking about sports
Yep.
or you also see me talking about politics or
Mm-hmm.
race or whatever it religion, whatever it may be. And really for me, it was like, sure, as a writer, cool, it may be more profitable for me
Yep.
or more conducive for me to go and like pick a lane, pick a niche.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that also wouldn't be authentic to me. And there's so many other things that make up who I am that I want the space to be able to express. And so much of this space for me, in order for it to be something that I can do consistently, it has to be life-giving. It
Yep.
has to be fun. It
Mm.
can't be something that I put I impose certain rules
Yep.
or restrictions on
Yep.
because I will very quickly know in myself, like
Yep.
that'll be something that will fall off and
Yep.
won't be something that I can like, you know, feel like I want to continue with. And
Yep.
so yeah, that for me, like being able to stay as true to myself
Yep.
in this process and make
Yep.
sure that that is coming through as clearly as possible
Mm.
has been honestly like one of the most significant parts of this process.
Now, obviously we're friends, but I am absolutely a fan. And so like one of the things that inspires me about you is that there is a consistency. Like I'm really curious about your creative process in terms of like okay, there's no rules. I'm going to do what's fun. I'm going to do what feels good. And that's what has really oiled the machine to work well. But you also have this like Seth Godin, Rick Rubin type like just keep putting shit out.
Mm.
Like you don't really stop. Like I'm sure you probably feel like you're not doing enough sometimes or I don't know, but like so how do you find that balance of saying okay, like the more you write, you become a good writer. And the more you write, like you have 3,000 subscribers and people even pay to read your words. Like that's bonkers. It's so cool. And you deserve
Yeah.
it in every way. Like so much of that is because of your consistency, that you are an essayist, you are a writer. Um, so what's that balance between like you read like an Anne Lamott or you read Stephen King's book and they're like, Stephen King took 400 words in his book on writing to pretty much tell you write at the same time every day for the rest of time. And so like okay, that's a box and yet it does cultivate a lot of creative output. What's that difference? Or like another way I wrote this down was like, capitalism says put out, put out, put out, but also the creative geniuses also say that. So how do you do that without it just crushing you? And what does
Yeah.
that look like? I'm a writer also. I love to create, I love to share, and yet sometimes I find that conflict of like the system says, the publishers say, the algorithm says, and to some degree it's true. It works. The more you put out, you do get a lot back. But that's not always the right way to go about existing as an artist. What
Yeah.
sparks in you? How do you hold that tension? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm hyper aware of just the not wanting to burn out.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I think as a creative person, as someone who has been online, been on social media the for the majority of my life now.
Yep.
Um, you know, I have also developed, I'm sure, what is a dopamine addiction. I'm
Sure.
sure what is a an online addiction.
Yep.
And that is and I recognize that. I recognize that the that desire, that push to never never be off, to always be on, to always be writing, posting, publishing, that's in me. And
Yep.
from the outside in, it may even look that way. And sometimes I even feel it within myself.
Yep.
Um, but I think one of the things that for me that I've had to come to come to terms with is also understanding when I need to say yes and then also
Mm.
when I need to say no and what that looks like. And for me, even in kind of starting the process of beginning to write a newsletter, one, I knew for myself, like my life isn't constructed in a way to
Mhm.
where I can put a hard and fast rule that I am going to write every day at this time. And that's just being true to who I am. That's understanding that, yo, there are gonna be some mornings, man, where I just don't have it.
Yep. Yep.
Where we stayed up late the night
Yep.
before. I was up late watching because Nuggets games damn near don't start till
So
10 p.m.
late, dude.
Eastern most times.
So
So it's
late.
like It's like,
I'm
okay,
on the
cool.
West and it's too late. And it's
Yes,
too
I'm
late
like,
on the
it's
West.
ridiculous. We gotta honestly, Adam Silver, if you're listening to this, we gotta change that. But it's yeah, it's one of those things that it's like I know for myself that just
Hmm.
like human wise, like I'm just not always gonna
Yep.
be in that state, and I
Yep.
can't like to put a hard and fast rule on something to
Mm.
commit myself to something that doesn't have any room for flexibility
Yep.
or to be able to shift and evolve like
Hmm.
that is inherently inhumane.
Yes.
And so for me, I think understanding, and this is something that I actually like, uh, there was a kind of a stint in time um, when I was finishing out my time in Colorado, and then when I first moved to Ohio, where I started to get more into yoga and practicing yoga. And I remember one of the things that was most helpful to me there and that really really made an impact on me was this idea of like not beating yourself up over getting distracted.
Mm.
If
Yes.
you were going into sort of this period of time at the end, that Shavasana period of
Yes.
just like sort of just like being,
Yes.
um, sometimes like there would be a prompt of like, hey, consider the intention that you set for
Yep.
this practice, or just like just be, focus on being. And a lot of times the teacher, instructor would say, hey, like if your mind wanders,
Hmm.
just like gently nudge it back.
Yep.
Which growing up in more evangelical
Yep.
Christian environments, so much the tools of
Yes.
the tools of how we were to correct and how we
Yes.
were to improve were oftentimes like
Mm.
they weren't gentle. They
Yes.
were they
100%.
were shame. They were attack. They were uh like it was more this like, no, we're gonna beat this into you.
Yep.
Which for me, like I so much within me uh resisted that.
Yep.
And I think like for me as a writer, I want to be able to have that same grace for
Wow.
myself, to be able to treat myself gently, to where like cool, if I know there's a lot in my head, then like that's when like okay, like you can get that out by writing. Like
Wow.
let's do that. If
Mm.
it's also a moment where it's like, yo, like you're tired, because I don't write full time. Like I have a
Yep.
9 to 5 job that
Yep.
I also do. So the way that I show up as a writer,
Hmm.
it can't just be that my whole life is
Yes.
dedicated to this
Yep.
thing. I have a job, I have a wife, I have
Hmm.
family and friends who I want to be able to make time for.
Yep.
And so I can't just say, you know what, like F all that, like I'm gonna just focus on
Yep.
like this writing
Yep.
thing, because I've had times where, there were times, especially early on, where I would get going on an idea and my wife would be like, yo, like, I don't know if you realize, but you haven't said anything for like the
Mm.
last like 2 to 3 hours.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yep.
Like, that is also a part of me where I can get so sucked into something that
Yep.
sort of the world around me doesn't exist. And I don't know if that's the actually like a healthy way
Yep.
to be human. There are
Hmm.
times where, sure, like they're more conducive to locking in, but like that actually isn't, I would actually want to be more open. And
Yep.
also, like, I never want to force an
Yes.
idea either. Like, there'd be a lot of times where I'd be writing and like, I'd be like, yo, I'm trying to like get this sentence. I'm trying to get this sentence right. I'm trying to figure out this title for this piece. And my wife is like, yo, just like, you could just take a break from it
Take a walk.
and
Take a
come
walk.
and come back to it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm like, wait, no, like I can do that, because part of my mind too is like it has to be like
Hmm.
very linear. But
Yep.
what so much of this like what so much of this process is taught me is like actually no, like
Hmm.
one, I no one is like no one's sitting here waiting for me to like drop something at a certain time. Like
Sure.
sure, but like sure maybe they, they would say they are, but like in the ways that it truly matters, like no, if you want to read my work, you're
Mm.
gonna
Here
make
it
the
is.
time to
Yeah.
do it on
I appreciate
whatever
that.
timeline that looks like. And
Yeah.
so,
Mm.
like cool. If I get to a place where I'm like, sometimes I'll have times where I'm more active
Hmm.
and you may get an essay from me like 2 times in 1 week.
Yep.
There may also be a time where you get one month and then you get another the next month.
Hmm.
But all within that, the goal is to be able to make something that I'm proud of.
Yes.
To be able to add that to a body of work that I feel excited and
Hmm.
proud to be able to dip back into and to be able to continue sharing with people because
Yep.
yes, like sure, so social media marketing wise, like people won't know that something exists if you don't tell them about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
But in order for me to actually want to tell people about it, it
Hmm.
has to be work that I feel
Wow.
connected to, that I feel proud
Mm.
of, that I actually want to share with people. And
Yep.
so much of this process for me is in that direction
Yep.
of wanting to make something that I actually feel proud to stand by and know that I
Mm.
put my authentic self in this, that
Yep.
it is something where, I remained open throughout the process. And hopefully there's something in here that others might connect with that may be able to
Yep.
meet them where they are.
Mm. So good. Um, oh, thank you. Um, Man, there's still so much more I want to talk about, but trying to decide. I want to distill. Okay, so you mentioned, bro, you don't write full time. You're not a full time artist. You're not a full time content creator. And you even said, and I was going to ask you this before you posted the propaganda I'm not falling for. I was already going to ask you this, and then you posted that. But, you posted yesterday or something, I won't fall for the propaganda that my work is my identity. And in my
Mm,
office, when I'm doing spiritual direction with people, so much of the dis-ease people feel is like, my work and my passions don't align, or the idea is always, if I just got a job that I loved, then my life would be okay. If I just, like, if I could be a full-time writer, or if I could be a full-time musician, like, okay, like, Russell Westbrook gets to be himself, but he's a professional basketball player and makes millions of dollars. Or of course Tyler the creator can wear whatever, and because he's a musician. But like, you're writing, you're putting your true self out there, and it's not your job. How have you learned to like hold that and be like, I'm sure that there's parts of your job, as is the case with anybody's job, that it's probably not everything you want to be. Like, we still got to clock in. You're not getting to write and be creative all day. How have you learned to balance those things and be like, and still find purpose, identity, your true self, your best expression outside of, say, the moneymaker and like
mm.
that type of thing? How do you handle that? How would you coach somebody that says, I don't get to work in my full-time passion. I don't make money doing my passion. What's your advice to that person?
Yeah. Oof. I love I love talking about this. Because yeah, for me, like I was that person. Like so much of, and I think so much of it too is like as kids, we are taught to, like, one of the first questions that we're asked oftentimes when we're talking to adults is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which is really this question of what do you want to do as a career?
Yep.
So we're already early on, one of the first lessons that we're being handed is that our careers are what defines us and the rest of our lives. It's what, our career is our identity.
Mm.
And I mentioned like my parents growing up, like, yes, they were very career oriented people. Like, that is how they made their livelihood. It's where they made their livelihood, where they had up to that point had already spent a significant part of their lives. And so when I thought about the college that I wanted to go to or what I wanted to study, it was absolutely in that vein of, okay, well, where do I want to go to school so that
Mhm.
I can have the best job when I get out of here? Or what do I want to study to ensure that I financially am making the most viable decision
Yep.
as I graduate and go on into the workforce? And so when I thought about the job that I wanted to have, it was also one of like, well, I have to commit my life to this.
Mhm.
So I don't want to just think of it as like, this like, I don't want to be bored every day. I don't
Mhm.
want to hate it.
Of
Like,
course.
I want my passions and, I want my purpose to be able to be explored within this job. And, my first job out of college, I looked at it as what I considered at that point to be my dream job.
Wow.
And it was something that I'd quite literally like moved halfway across the country for, moved from North Carolina to
Mhm.
Colorado to be able to do.
Mhm.
And what I saw with that pretty early on is that, well, no, like there are actually times where the things that you value
Mhm.
may not necessarily be valued at the same level
Yes.
as the job that you work for.
Yep.
And it is possible for you to be disappointed. It is possible for that job, that career to let you down.
Wow.
And then I thought, well, hey, like this job doesn't necessarily align with my values in this way. Let me swing to the other end of this and
Mm.
say like, okay, well, this job I think does a better job
Yep.
of being able to,
Mhm.
you know, show these values and to be able to explore them. And so I went that direction.
Yep.
And still I saw actually no, like that that can be disappointing too, that can be a place where you still experience burnout, even if they perfectly,
Wow.
are somewhat perfectly aligned with where your values are. And I remember around that time where I was starting to begin to kind of work through some of these things, I read a book by Sarah Jaffe called Work Won't Love You Back.
Hmm.
And it's a book that I now like recommend to anybody that I have these kinds of conversations with, because ultimately, what it says is that so much of how we're taught to think about work is that, like one, we're supposed to give our lives to
Mhm.
these jobs. And in return, we can get this sense that, oh, well, our jobs are also going to show up for us in the same way. But the reality is that even it could be the most, you know, the it could be the most positive environment,
Yep.
the most ethical environment, whatever the case may be. And still, that business, that organization is going to have a set of priorities
Yep.
that isn't necessarily going to align with what your priorities are. And pretty far down on the list most of those time is going to be your own
Yeah.
individual well-being, welfare, all that kind of stuff. And so the lesson of that book is in the title. It's that, work, a business does not have the ability, an organization does not have the ability to be able to express love, to
Mm.
be able to actually bring this sense of inner peace and
Yep.
satisfaction, fulfillment.
Mhm.
People do that. Like we do that for each
Yes.
other.
Oh.
And so, that for me, I think like having kind of that shift where it was like, hey, like there's more to this life than
Mhm.
just work. And there are other ways for me to be able to explore the things that I love than just work. A job can be great for personal development. It can
Yep.
obviously be great as a means for being able to make a living and to pay your bills and to,
Yep.
have benefits and all these kinds of things. But there are certain things that any job is not going to be able
Yes.
to do. And so I think for me, it was, and my parents would tell me this pretty early on. And I kind of like, I would push against it,
Yep.
but they were like, yo, you can do this like thing that you love outside of
Mm-hmm.
your job.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
take this job to be able to like
Do the
pay
thing.
your bills, do all those kinds of
Mhm.
things, but like you still have time outside
Yep.
of this where you can
Yep.
do the things that you enjoy and that you truly care about.
Yep.
And I was like, no, there's no way. Like they
Mm-hmm.
have to be the same thing. And now looking back, I'm like, no, that's exactly what
Wow.
I'm doing. And where I am is that, like, yes, there are absolutely aspects of my job and people that I've gotten to meet through my job that, are really special and have taught me a lot. And, my job has even afforded me an opportunity to be able to care for people in a new way, and be able to kind of learn things about others and myself in different ways. But
Yep.
also, in the same way, like my job is just that. It's a job. There
Yep.
are other aspects of my life that still make up who I am. So, yes, I can do that work
Yep.
and I can also write and I can
Yes.
also make time to be with my wife, make time to be with my friends,
Yep.
eat the good food that I like to have,
Yes.
watch the sports that I love to watch, be able to show up in the community in the ways that I want
Yep.
to. Those things can all be possible.
Yep.
Um, but I think it's at a high level being able to understand
Yep.
that these are all parts
Yep.
of who I am. Not one of them is the
Yes.
sum of me.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, bro. Yes. Yeah. It takes a giant mindset shift though, and that we are more
Yeah.
than just this one thing. And um, man, again, I know we're pushing it on time. We haven't even talked about Tyler the Creator. We haven't even talked about. I even wore my shirt for you today, my Igor
Yo,
shirt.
I peeped
Um,
at the
I wore that just for
Igor.
you. That'll be for the
Man,
next
that's
one.
love. That's
Um,
love.
this is I'm still a spiritual director. We got to touch spirituality just a touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like I want to read this part from one of your essays, and I just really wanted to give you a chance to go here. Um,
Yeah.
you said God was always taught to me as a he,
Mm,
but it's the women in my life who planted this faith in me. They're who I think of when I think about God.
mm.
I want to cry, first of all. Um, would you be willing? I wanted to give you a chance to maybe share a story or two about those women.
Yeah.
Um, and if you'd be willing to go there, to
Yeah.
be willing to share how these women planted this spirituality inside of you. Who were those women? And maybe just help us see the divine feminine a little bit from your perspective.
Mm, mm.
However that looks for you. Again, this is a space, I want to learn from you, and that just again it makes me want to cry. And yeah, I'd love to give a small platform to those women who have shaped and formed
Yeah.
you, as we begin to wrap it up here.
Yeah. I mean, so many for like so many different women just kind of popped in my head and that I was thinking of when writing that. But, I think about my mom who would, she would drag me to church as a kid and I hated it. Uh, but that was important for her. And she she made sure that we were there. We didn't go necessarily every Sunday, but she made she made the effort
Yeah.
to show up for me, show up for my sister in that way. And you know, that's part of who I am. Like that's where I started to gain my love for gospel music.
Hmm.
And, you know, to even be able to hear, you know, the cadence of a preacher and how that rhythm has impacted the way that I write and
Wow.
how I listen to other people. I think about my grandma Thelma, who my dad's mom, who, you know, my grandfather, he was a Catholic deacon for a
Mm.
number of years, and my grandma was right there by his side. And you know, in especially in a Caribbean family, I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of attention given to the men in that
Mhm.
family. And sure, like absolutely. You know, I believe those men in my family, those men in my life that they're they're worthy of love. They're worthy of being able to be considered
Yes.
in that way. And also my grandma Thelma is the embodiment
Wow.
of goodness and
Yes.
kindness. She's the uh you know, she's 90 years old now, and
Mm.
my wife and I got an opportunity to sit with her a few months ago, and just listen to her tell stories and reminisce. And
Yes.
you'll never hear a story from her. You'll never hear the same story from her, which is incredible. Like even for me, I'm like, oh man, did I tell that story before? But
Yeah.
like she always has this kind
Hmm.
of new experience to be able to share and is always so generous with sharing that. And I mean, she is still somebody who uh, you know, she's not great with technology, but
Hmm.
she finds a way to
Wow.
read my newsletter and to, you
Wow.
know, to keep up with what I'm writing. And that's
Hmm.
so special to me. And my, you know, my grandma Gwen, my mom's mom, who she she actually like she didn't love going to church.
Hmm.
But whenever I was in the car with her, she always had on gospel radio.
Hmm.
There was always Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams,
Hmm.
Mary Mary bumping through the speakers.
Yep.
And, you know, I think so much of what I recognize as God in these women is it's the way that they live, it's the way that they love. It wasn't
Mm.
necessarily, you know, some great theological thing that they taught me. And
Yeah.
sure, there was a time in my life where I thought that the ways in which they showed up were a cheaper version
Mm.
of faith. That,
Mm.
you know, the real
Yeah.
acts of faith were, you know, these really like haughty toddy sermons
Yep.
that, you know, had a clean bow on them at the end and felt so academic and analytical.
Mm.
But so much of, so much is, in my experience, so much of spirituality and specifically Black spirituality
Mm.
you know, it has nothing to do with that. Sure,
Sure.
there's sermons, sure, there's, you know, biblical knowledge, but it is also the way in which these things show up in your body and the
Yes.
freedom that you have in those spaces to actually feel those things because there's a sense of familiarity
Yes.
with the people around you.
Yes.
There's a safety
Yes.
that's there. And
Yes.
so for me, that's so much of what I got to
Yes.
witness through one,
Mm.
loving them, being loved by them,
Yep.
and getting to witness the
Mm.
ways in which they showed up in the world.
Yeah. There's a there's this essence of the feminine spirituality is embodied. It has so much
Hmm.
more to do with the food and the hugs and the
Yeah.
cuddles and the face touches and the kisses.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
embodied.
Uh there's that Chance the Rapper song Sunday Candy.
Yes. Oh,
And I I never fully was able to, you know, I knew that I loved the way that he talked about his grandma
Yep.
in that song.
Mm-hmm.
I was never able to fully articulate it, but uh, it is like there's this like even just in that like we joke like how grandmas they have like this candy in their purse and they're
Yep.
always ready to be able to
Yep.
give it to you at a church service.
Yep.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a like
Yep.
it's not for them.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
I never saw my grandma have one of those pieces of candy. Like it
Wow.
was for us. Like it
Yes.
was for us to be able to to be able to further engage. It was for us to be able to, even just keep us calm, keep us in like a keep us in that place,
Yeah.
knowing that sure, we
Regulated.
wanted
Yeah.
to run around, kind of
Yeah.
wander, do all the things,
Mm.
and that space may not necessarily have been particularly conducive for that. But, like
Mm-hmm.
she's got that as a
Yep.
means of being able to share it and to be able to specifically to be able to share it with us as her grandchildren. And so,
Yep.
yeah, for me, like so much of it is like it is that feeling. Like when I moved out to Colorado, um, like there so much of what I was around, who I was around, like it was primarily being in a lot of white spaces. And I remember kind of looking for a church at that time.
Yep.
And particularly at that point, it was after the deaths of Philando Castile and Alton
Mm-hmm.
Sterling and like
Yep.
uh just having this deep, deep need within myself to be around my people.
Yep.
And ended up that there was this black church that was right around the corner from where I was living. And
Mm.
I went over there one Sunday and immediately as soon as I got in there and heard the music, like something just washed over me. And there was this freedom of movement and expression and being able to sing loudly that
Yep.
I I felt. And it felt familiar because that's what I grew up with. Like that's where I'd been. And it had been a while since I had been in that kind of space, but it felt truly like home. And so also like
Mm.
after that service, there was some people around my age who were in the choir and they saw me they saw me out there in the congregation singing. They were like, "Yo, like, do you sing? Like, you should come join the choir with us." And
Mm.
they were like, "Hey, we're about to actually go out to lunch. We're gonna get some Texas Roadhouse. Do you want to join us?" I'm like, "Man, like I they don't know that I just moved here. They don't know that
Yep.
I'm trying to make friends.
Yep.
They were just so willing to invite me into that, and
Mm.
and it just so happened that a number of them were gay, and
Mm-hmm.
it was also this thing of like, man, like
Yep.
you're in this environment where you can't even fully be yourself,
Yep.
but you are still loving
Yep.
as fully and as freely
Yep.
as you can. And I'm now getting this gift of getting to know you at a deeper level and
Yep.
understand you at a deeper level and the ways in which that expanded my heart, the ways in which that expanded how I looked at the
Wow.
world and how I loved other people. Like that embodiment you were talking about,
Yep.
like the ways in which that can kind of like
Mm-hmm.
manifest and express itself
Yep.
and
Yep.
actually bring us in closer community
Yes.
with each other and feel that sense of interconnectedness, like that to me is something that, yeah, like I saw that first in
Mm-hmm.
those women I mentioned. And
Yep.
ever since then, I feel especially attuned to the things that remind me of them.
Dude. Ugh. Ugh. It makes me want to cry, which is not a problem. We didn't even get to talk about masculinity, which we will on the next one. We'll
Yo,
talk about Tyler the Creator on the next one. I tell you what, though, I think you have an essay to write called A God Like Grandma. A
mm,
God Like Grandma. Or maybe I'll write the book. A God Like
please.
Grandma. Ugh, that's what I heard, man. God probably looks like grandma.
Mm,
Oh, Alex, thank you, bro. This is just, man, you're deep well. You're such a
dude,
gift. You've been a gift to
dude,
me for so long, and this has been a gift.
man,
Huh.
thank you, bro. This is man, I'm glad we got to do this.
Me too.
It's been dope for me.
Yeah.
Just, I think so much about so much about my time in Colorado and the people I got to meet. And you were one of those folks who you welcomed me in, and whether it was through the coffee shop, whether it's just through making time to be able to sit with me, create with me, like uh, you made me feel welcome there and made that feel like that was a place that got to become home for me even for
Oh,
that short amount of time. So to be able to still be able to keep up with you and to see the ways that you're showing up for yourself, showing up for your people, showing up for
mm,
even folks who may not ever get to meet you in person
yeah.
is such a dope thing to be able to, even have just a small
Mm.
part in this. So I
Thank you,
appreciate it, man.
Alex. Yeah, appreciate it too. Where can people find you? I'll put it all in the show notes and whatever, but like where's the spots that people can find your work, what you're up to?
Yeah, yeah. So think the definitely starting with the newsletter. So subscribe to Feels Like Home. That is alexlewis.substack.com. Uh really easy. And then you know, online, I'm mostly at Lewis Alex 10. It's number 10 on kind of, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, wherever.
Great.
So yeah, come say what's up.
Yep.
Come see what I'm talking about. And please
Love it.
talk with me about
Sounds good.
it.
And I'll put all that in the show notes so everybody can see. Man, this has been so good. Alex, I love you. Proud of you. This has
Dude,
been
love
the
you
Tyler
too,
Hill
man.
Podcasts. We'll see you all on the other side.